Now check it what we completed there in the last sessions. Okay. Now I think we are discussing about the differences between like frameworks, that points we discussed here. Now in the last class part by things so due to some power failure we stopped our class in the middle. So what are the various differences here we understood there? First one is what there, struts and JSF are web application frameworks. They will provide a very good environment to prepare only web applications. But the Spring is an application framework. It will provide a very good environment to prepare any type of application like standalone application, web application, distributed applications, database related applications, and so on. Next one is Struts is a controller based web application. Struts is a controller based web application framework. Web application based framework. It will have very good focus on the controller layer. JSF is a view based web framework, view based web application framework. It will have a very good focus on the presentation layer, that means view layer. Spring framework will have very good focus on all the layers of the enterprise applications. Okay, fine. Struts and JSF are heavyweight frameworks. They must create more objects internally to perform any simple task. But Spring is a lightweight framework. It is not required to create any object internally to perform any task. That means internally, without having like it is able to create, instead of saying that any object, it is able to create less number of objects internally, less number of objects internally, or fewer objects internally to perform any task. But here it has to create more objects. That's okay, fine. Struts and JSF are more API dependent. They must use a more predefined library. Spring Framework is less API dependent. It will use a less predefined library. In the case of Struts and JSF, debugging and testing are very much difficult. In the case of Spring, debugging and testing are very simple. Struts and JSF are not modularized frameworks. For any simple program, we must load the complete Struts and JSF frameworks. Okay, Spring is a modularized framework. For any simple program, the respective module has to be loaded instead of loading the complete Spring framework. That's the main advantage of like what is the Spring framework. Understand it clearly. Struts and JSF are having very good tag libraries to prepare the view part, but the Spring framework in this particular area, Spring framework is not having very good tag library. Spring framework has very simple tag libraries to prepare view layer. That means less number of tags are available. Fine. Struts and JSF are following MVC and its correlated design patterns. Only MVC and its correlated. In the case of Spring framework, only the Spring Web MVC is following MVC and its correlated design patterns. All the remaining modules are having their own design patterns. Different design patterns are available remaining. The design patterns are going to be followed there internally. In Struts and JSF, there is no predefined library, predefined environment to integrate the other technology applications like JDBC, EJBs, Hibernate, and so on, where we have to provide an integration environment explicitly. But Spring Framework has a very good environment to integrate the other technology applications. Okay, some examples are given there. What are the various examples here we are given there? Spring JDBC module is able to allow JDBC integration with the Spring. Spring ORM module is able to allow Hibernate integration with the Spring. Spring Web module is able to allow struts, JSF and so on integration with what there is Spring. Right. Now like this, these are the various modules here we are having. Similarly, we are able to have, see, then what next point here we are understanding there after completion of this. Another point is like what there, in which way struts and JSF are not having any predefined environment to perform the integration with some other technology or other applications. In the same way, one more point here I'm telling to you, observe carefully. Struts and JSF are not having any predefined integration environment with the view-based technology, like view-based technologies like what there, velocity, time lift. Understand it clearly. Velocity, time lift, they are the most advanced technologies. Okay, velocity, time lift, and so on. Basic JSF, basic JSPs, basic Ajax, and basic like what I'm telling to you, jQuery, Java. This support is by default in every technology. But these are some advanced technologies, advanced UI technologies. So this support is not available with what their struts and JSF internally. But whereas when we go for this Spring now, Spring Framework, the Spring Framework has a predefined integration environment with the view-based technologies like velocity, free marker, comma time lift, and so on and so on and so on. Observe carefully. Free marker is also be one of the integration. That means one of the, like what I'm telling to you, view-based technology, other view-based technology which provides some environment for the sake of preparing what their view. But default support is not available inside the struts on JSF. But in the case of the Spring Framework, the default support is available. Yes, sir. All of you are getting it or not? Okay, fine. Next one is another point here we have to understand. In the point of this integration, testing internal support is not available in the struts and JSF to test the applications. That means one point I'm telling there. A JUnit is what there, a testing environment. That means JUnit is a testing tool. To utilize the JUnit, everything we have to provide explicitly with the struts and JSF applications. No predefined environment. But in the case of this Spring now, there is an internal support to test the application with the JUnit. The JUnit internal support is available inside the Spring Framework to perform the testing clearly. Understand my point clearly? No? Right, sir. Now understand this point. No, struts and JSF are not providing any predefined support to test the applications explicitly, to test the applications by using the testing tools, by using the testing tools like what there, JUnit and so on. So many things are available. Just only one thing here I'm giving there. All right, no predefined support is available in the struts and JSF now. But whereas Spring Framework has the predefined support to test the applications by using the testing tools like JUnit. Why? Because a separate module was provided inside the Spring framework. That separate module is like what the test module is available inside the Spring framework. There is a module like what the test module. So by default, support is available here. We can identify. Alright, and another point here I'm telling to you, integration with the Spring ORM and all the points here I provided here. That's okay, fine. Next one is another point. Similarly, struts and JSF are not having any predefined support to integrate all the middleware services. Like what are the various middleware services? No, we can understand it clearly. JAS, JTA, Java Transaction API, JMS, or the JMS, no, Java Messaging Services, JMS, and so on and so on and so on. This type of services are not available. But when it comes to the Spring framework has a very good support to integrate all the middleware services like JAS, then what next one here, JTA, next one is what the JMS, and so on. This type of middleware support is not available in the case of Struts and JSF, but in the case of Spring framework, we have a clear-cut support for what their middleware services now. Why? Because inside this Spring framework, we have a separate module, J2EE module is available. The J2EE module main intention is what they're integrating the J2EE services only. Understand it? What I'm telling you now. Like this, we can go for n number of differences now. Still, almost all 6 or 7 number of differences are available in my mind about this now, but not required to go for all these concepts here. But these are sufficient. Whenever we are having a situation to differentiate Spring framework and other frameworks, if you want to differentiate there, then simply here we have to go for what there these many concepts clearly. Is that clear? Fine, sir. Next one is after completion of this, the content here, what I'm telling to you. After understanding all these points, then what next one here we have to understand. Fine. Whenever we are having the differentiation about that the Spring and other frameworks like Struts and JSF, that environment is also be completed. Now we are going to start with what their Spring framework. At least some few points here we have to understand. Then Spring framework here we have to understand. What exactly the Spring framework and its details, some basic information here we have to understand. All right, sir. History. That means if we take the history of the Spring framework, who has provided the Spring framework? If you observe this clearly, Interface 1 is a company previously. What is the company name there? Interface 1. Now a separate organization like what there Spring Pivotal or Spring. The basic name here we are getting it clearly. But initially, Interface 1 is a company that has given there. Next one is who has given this Spring framework to us? Right, sir? Who's that person there? Rod Johnson, right? Rod Johnson. So he's the author for like what there Spring framework. Understand it clearly. Then after this, what type of framework here it is no, or maybe what is the objective of this framework actually? What is the objective of this framework here no? To accelerate and simplify the enterprise application development. Understood this point here? What is the objective of this Spring framework? No, to accelerate and simplify the enterprise application development. That's the purpose here. We can identify clearly. Next one is type of the framework. What type of the framework it is? No, if you understand it clearly, right? It is application, right, sir? Web framework and application framework. Application framework. So it will focus on each and every corner of the enterprise application. Next one is what there? Licensed one, licensed or like what there? What we are saying there? Is it licensed one or freeware? That means open source. Or maybe what I'm telling there, licensed one or freeware. If you observe this clearly, it's a freeware. It's a freeware. Next one is what there? Open source software. Open source software. Freeware and open source software. That's it. Understand it clearly? Freeware and open source software. What is the meaning of this actually? Both are not same. Freeware and open source software both are not same or both are different. The two words frequently we are using in Java side, freeware and open source software. Two things here we are using there. Both are same or both are different? That is my question. Both are different. Definitely both are different. Both are not same. But what is the difference between these two things now? Freeware. Understand the point about like what is the freeware? What exactly the freeware here? Observe carefully. With 0 NP, we can download it and we can use it. No need to take any license. No need to take any license. Directly we can download it. We can use this. That's the meaning of freeware. But what is the meaning of open source software there? Whatever the product we are downloading, we are using that, where along with that product, source code will come. That source code we can modify as per our requirement. We can convert that software as per our requirement. Understand my point clearly? What I'm telling you now. Simple examples I'm telling you. Try to understand it now. For example, all of you observe carefully. For example, Java is a open source software. Okay. Understand it. Java people, Sun Microsystems has given Java in one direction. For example, WebLogic is one of the server. That WebLogic server requires Java software. But how the Java software is required inside the WebLogic server now? As it is, whatever the Java software which was provided by Sun Microsystems, that software as it is required up to 70%, but remaining 30% they want to have customization over the Java software. That customized Java software and original 70% they want to use in their WebLogic server. Then immediately WebLogic people, they have customized Java software up to 30% as per the requirement. Then they have used their customized Java software and part of the like WebLogic server. Point number one. Next one is Selenium is a testing tool. Selenium is a tool. The Selenium tool required Java internally. Why? Because that product is designed on the top of the Java only. Required internally Java. But how much Java is as is required from Sun Microsystems? No. Again the similar ratio. 70% as is the Java what Sun Microsystems has given. They want to use it, but 30% extra they want to go for their own manipulations over the Java. So 30% they manipulated Java. Remaining 70% that original Java what Sun Microsystems has given that they want to use. That means you can understand it clearly. Third-party vendor can modify the Java as per their requirement or not. This is the meaning of like what their open source software. So we can get the Java software from internet. We can get the source code also from the Java software. There we can go for modifications as per the requirement. That's finish. Then automatically we are able to manage that one. So Java is what their open source software. Similarly, Spring Framework also. Fine, sir. Leave this one clearly. From where here we have to get that website and all these details here. If you observe this clearly, or before that, what are the latest versions here we have to identify at present? What versions are available here now? Versions point of view, if you observe this clearly, at present the Spring 5.x version, then what next one here? Spring 6.x version. These two versions are going on at present in outside market. Now versions point of view, if you are talking there, Spring 1.x version is the initial version. Initial version of the Spring framework is what there? 1.x version. 1.x version is a namesake version only. 2.x version, especially 2.x version, 2.5 version is available. That is a more effective version of the Spring framework. After that, Spring 3.x version, next effective version here. After that, 4.x version is a namesake. Few points are added here. Next, 5.x and 6.x both are going on at present in market. At present, in the software industry, what Spring framework people are trying to use there, Spring 5.x, then what next one? No, Spring 6.x versions, they are going on clearly. Of course, right from 3.x version onwards, still companies are using like what their Spring framework. Okay, fine, sir. Next one is after this latest versions here we understood there built on that Spring framework was designed on the top of what? If you observe this clearly, it was designed on the top of like what there J to SE, J to EE. That means J to EE in the sense like what there. I'm going to give clarity. JDBC, understand it clearly. JDBC, Servlets API, JSP's API, comma some other J to EE tools, some other J to EE technologies. Okay, or else maybe simply here we can understand clearly J to SE, these many things, no, then other J to EE technologies here we are going to have there. Inside this what there? Spring framework built on the top of this particular one. Alright, sir. Next one is after this, after completion of this. Built on is okay, fine. And apart from this, home, other, objective, type, licensed or freeware, latest version, built on the top of this particular one here. Apart from this, website, from where here we have to get the content. Spring.io, website name, www.spring.io. Okay, www.spring.io, from where here we are able to get all the details of the Spring framework. Okay, right, sir. Like this, then some other details maybe. These are the basic information here we have to understand clearly about this Spring framework. It's okay, fine. Now, Spring modules. What are the various modules are available inside the Spring modules? Okay. I want to provide some diagrammatic representation to all of you. Now, try to understand these diagrams here. Spring modules. I think so already I have prepared some diagrams previously. I want to give the diagrams to you. Otherwise, maybe I'll prepare this again. New diagrams to you. Don't worry for it. All right, so now again. I think in my previous classes, spring diagrams I have not given. It's okay. Yeah, don't worry. The spring, okay, the diagrams are not available. No need to worry for it. I'll prepare these diagrams. No, then first one here we have to understand. Yeah, of course. I think in the previous document it is available. No need to worry for it. I want to prepare these diagrams here. Now try to observe carefully. First of all, what are the various modules which are available in a Spring 1.x version? What modules are available here? Okay. Observe carefully. Now this is 1.x version modules related content. Right, sir. Now Spring core module. This is like what there Spring core module. Now this is Spring AOP module. Now this is Spring Web MVC module. Okay. Now we can identify this is like what there context module. Right, sir. Now this is like what there DAO and JDBC module. This is like what there ORM module. Then apart from this, now this is like what web module. Web module is different and web MVC is different. Web module is for integrating other MVC technology applications. Spring Web MVC is what there, its own MVC framework. Right, sir. Now this is like what I'm telling to you, 1.x version, Spring 1.x version modules, related information. Their explanation I will provide to you later on. Don't worry for it. Spring 1.x version, right? It's related content here we provided. Okay, this is 1.x version modules information. We can identify this. Next one is Spring 2.x version modules related information. Just we can identify this. Okay. Again, this is like what there Spring core module. Now, okay, this is like what there Spring AOP module. Now, here Spring JDBC module, and the next one is like what there ORMO module. Apart from this, now Spring J2EE module. Now it is like what there Spring Web module. So now here in the case of 2.x version, both web and Spring J2, that means web and web MVC, both are integrated here. No? Web and web MVC. For our clarity, I'm writing no web and here we can understand it now. Spring Web MVC. Both are integrated in a single module here. So these are the modules which are available in what there Spring 2.x version modules. Okay. Right, sir. 2.x version modules here, what we are having. Next one is what there, apart from this, Spring 3.x version modules, if you observe this. In a Spring 3.x version, changes are available in the modules. Then a lot of changes they maintain in the modules architecture. What changes are available here? Just observe carefully. Say for example, now this is like what there core container. Spring core container. Inside this Spring core container, other modules are also be existed. That means small sub modules are provided. First one is like what there beans, or maybe simply speaking core. Apart from this core, next one is what there beans. Okay. Then after this context. Then after this context, next one is what there Spring expression language. Spring expression language. SPEL, that modules. They are the small sub modules here we are having. Okay, then after this, here we are having AOP module. After this AOP module, next one is aspects module is available. Next one is instrumentation. Instrumentation module is available. After this instrumentation module, next one is messaging module. Okay. After this, two more modules are available here. Main modules. Two more things are available. Now this is like what there data access or integration modules. Now this is like what there Spring Web module. Inside this data access or integration module, there are 4 parts are available. What are the 4 parts here we have to identify? First one is what there JDBC module, ORM module. Next one is what there OXM, object XML mapping, object relational mapping, object XML mapping. Next one is what there JMS. Okay. In the Spring Web, again here we are having modules, number of modules here we are having there. Right, sir. First one is like what there web module. After this servlets module. Then after that, now this is like what there portlets. Then after this, here what happened there struts. And now Spring 3.x version. At the time of introducing Spring 3.x version, struts framework is in its peak position. Struts framework is in its peak position. Later on, it was totally down. But on the moment of introducing Spring 3.x version, that struts framework is in peak position. That's why Spring people have taken one separate layer for integrating struts with what there with our Spring applications. That's why a separate module for what there struts they have taken clearly. Hello, if you're following or not? All right, sir. Now this is exactly like what there 3.x version module system. Okay. 3.x version. Next one is Spring 4.x version and Spring 5.x version almost all same. In the case of these modules, no, they're having the same, almost all same, but nothing neglectable differences are available, but almost all same in the point of modules architecture. Now I'll provide this that exact structure here, no, try to understand it clearly. In the 3.x version, whatever the things here we have seen, almost all similar, but few more modules are added. Same structure, few more modules are added. I'll provide that few more modules what we are having there separately inside this. Small adjustments only, but try to understand it clearly. First of all, test module is added here. What module is added there? No, test module. On the top of this test module, Spring core container, core beans context. The name was changed. This name is changed here. They are not using Spring expression language module, but in short form they have provided the module here. That is what there SPEL. What is that module name here? No, SPEL. What is that SPEL? No, same name, Spring Expression Language only, but short form they provided for this. Okay, this is one change here we can identify. Next one is what there, AOP, aspects, instrumentation and messaging as it is. Here we are not having any changes. No, data access and integration layer, here we are having one more small change. What change is available here now? If you observe this now, there we have another module inside this, like what there, data access and integration. That another module name is like what there, transactions. The module name is like what there, transactions. Module name is available. Okay, in a Spring Web module, if you observe this clearly, inside this Spring Web module, when it comes to the 4.x version and 5.x version, alright sir, now struts is not available. Okay, struts is not available. Portlet will come to this location. In place of portlet, some other module was provided, that is WebSockets. WebSockets, that module is introduced here clearly. And if you get internet, struts module was removed there. In place of this, WebSockets and portlet is coming here. Now this is the total structure of like what there, 4.x version and 5.x version. I think so. In the 6.x version also, too many changes are not available, but internally API wise changes are available. Internal API wise changes are available. What changes are available there? Previously we have Java X package now, but in 6.x version, that entire Java X package is converted to what there, Jakarta package. That is a major change in a 6.x version here, what I identified. Apart from this, no new modules are added, no other content is provided clearly. Sir, got it or not? So this is the basic structure of like what there, 4.x version and 5.x version. That means about this Spring framework. Almost all the similar thing is available even for what there, 6.x version also, but small changes only that we have to recognize. Okay, right sir. These are about like what there, modules related information that what we are having clearly about this Spring framework. If I find any variations or any changes in these modules, no, that I will explain to you later on. No need to worry for it. But as of now, that the total diagrammatic representation for all the modules here we are having like this. Leave this one. After this is okay, fine. No issues for it. After this, that another thing here, what I am telling to you, I want to give some explanation for all the concepts here. Core module. In some versions, directly core module. In some other versions, core module is divided into 4 other modules, no? Like whatever it may be. And total here I'm telling to you core module. Inside this core module, what exactly the environment here we are able to get. Okay? Alright, I'm giving information to you. This module is the fundamental module. This module is like what their fundamental module. Everybody understand this point clearly. This module is what their fundamental module. It will provide number one, beans management. What is the meaning of this beans management? How to manage the beans in Spring applications, how to prepare the beans, how to create objects for beans, what are the various scopes for the beans, how to make available these beans to other applications. Like what their scopes are, like what their singleton scope, prototype scope, like different scopes are available for the beans now. Everything are going to be maintained under like what their beans management. Next one is what their containers management. Containers management is like what there, what are the various containers are available inside the Spring framework. Containers in the sense like what there, what I'm telling to you. In core Java program, JVM is available. JVM can execute our programs. Web applications, servers are executing our programs. Inside the servers, no containers are executing our program. Right or not? In a Spring framework, similarly, containers are available. What is the job of their containers? No, creating bean objects, executing business logic inside the bean objects. Creating bean objects, executing business logic inside what their bean objects. That could be done by what their containers. So container management. Mainly two types of containers here we are having. What are the two types of containers inside this content here? No, one is bean factory, another one is application context. Bean factory is an outdated container. Application context is what their newer container. Understand what I'm telling you clearly. Apart from this, context management. Context management in the sense, under this context of management now, uh, advanced features are going to be provided. Like what are there? Inside this context management, some event handling. Event handling is not available with the core module. Inside like what are there? Bean management and container management. But internationalization support I want to get inside the Spring framework. Event handling support, event handling, internationalization support, exception handling support. So all these advanced features are supported by that context management only, that context module. Understand my point clearly? Apart from this, SPEL, expression language, some separate expression language is provided here. This expression language can be used to manipulate with the bean data. Inside this bean, for example, some properties are available. I want to get properties data explicitly. I want to do some operations over the properties data. Or else I want to create a separate bean object, duplicate bean object I want to create with the same data of the present bean object. Some manipulations. I want to copy the data from one bean object to another bean object. So that everything we are going to do with what there? SPEL. So these many concepts are going to be happen inside like what there? Core module. Sir, I'll forget my point or not. A simple overview of each and every module here. I'm telling you, not try to understand it clearly. See, this core module is covering almost all these points. Okay, in every case. Now here also the core container here is available here. Now here core is available here, but here also the core is available here. Try to understand this clearly. So that's entirely the core module here I covered clearly. So information is what there, beans management, like what there, maintaining and creating and storing bean objects. Okay, container management, containers, bean factory, comma, application context, containers. Next one is what their context management, like internationalization maybe. Apart from this, event handling, event notification or event handling, exception handling, advanced features. All these are like what are the advanced features. SPEL, expression language to manipulate and perform operations, to manipulate, expression language to manipulate and perform operations with what? With the bean objects. In Spring framework, the main component is bean only, Java bean component only. Through this Java bean component only, that every operation we are going to perform inside the Spring framework. Understand my point, Kena? In normal core Java programs, class we are going to take, class for representing some entity. Similarly, inside the Spring framework, a bean. A bean is nothing but what there, everything is represented through what there, Java bean. Okay, right, sir. Next one is what? After completion of this core module, next one is like what? Apart from this, we are going to understand JDBC module or data access and integration module. I'll have to understand it clearly. This module I want to. Later on, I'll come for all these modules. Not to worry for it. Now the second module is like what I'm telling there. JDBC module, or else maybe individual. I want to take this one. DAO and JDBC module. DAO and JDBC module. Right, sir. First of all, I want to give some clarity for like what there DAO module. What is the purpose of it clearly? DAO module is providing some predefined library or some environment to prepare DAO layer in the enterprise applications. DAO layer, I think already you are aware about this terminology. In servlets we prepared already some MVC based application. where DAO layer we prepared, student to DAO we prepared. There we are going to perform the database operations. There we are going to perform what there database operations by using like what there create method, by using like what there CRUD operations. Create, inserting the data, updating the data, retrieving the data, deleting the data. So this operation we perform again. So DAO layer. To prepare this DAO layer, some predefined support is available. That is one point. Where DAO layer is able to provide predefined support, is able to provide what the predefined support to create DAO layer, DAO layer, and listen carefully. All of you observe carefully. And DAO layer has provided a separate exception classes, which are used in the Spring applications. Which are used in what their Spring applications. Separate exceptions hierarchy was provided. Exceptions classes hierarchy, which we are using, which are used in Spring applications. Listen carefully. How Spring Framework is putting more focus on this exception handling? I can give one example. In JDBC, almost all we are getting checked exceptions, for example. Handling the checked exceptions is somewhat difficult, but handling unchecked exceptions is somewhat better. Then immediately what Spring Framework has done there, Spring Framework has provided equivalent unchecked exceptions for what their underlying technology provided checked exceptions. In the case of JDBC, if you are getting SQL exception, it's a checked exception that we have to handle properly. But in the case of the Spring Framework, what happened there? The checked exception, SQL exception is converted to unchecked exception like what their data access exception. In the case of Spring Framework, that SQL exception is converted to what their data access exception. Now this is unchecked exception. At runtime, we are going to use some other mechanisms to handle these exceptions clearly. That means if it is a checked exception, either we have to use throws keyword separately, or we have to write try catch finally. Some mechanisms we have to apply. But if it is an unchecked exception here, without using these concepts here, by having some mechanisms, we are able to handle these exceptions inside the Spring Framework. So the DO layer has provided exception classes hierarchy, which are used in the Spring Framework. That is one part here. Next one is, now let's move on to the JDBC module. JDBC module. What JDBC module is able to provide the environment? What exactly the JDBC module is able to provide the environment? Understand it clearly. Where JDBC module simplifies the database operations by using JDBC, by using what the JDBC API internally. Yeah, I will give some elaborated information for it. Now try to understand it clearly. All of you answer for my question now. In general, in JDBC, to perform the database operations, we have to use the following steps. Tell me, sir, what are the various steps here we are going to use there? Now tell me. In general, in a JDBC, to perform the database operations, we have to use the following steps. What are the various steps here we have to use? Now tell me. Answer for it. First one is, already this point here. Load and register the driver. Load and register the driver. Tell me what code here we have to use to load and register the driver class now. Come on, what code here we have to use there? Class dot for name of driver class name here we have to provide. com dot mysql dot cj dot jdbc dot driver. This is one thing. Second point. After that, establish connection between Java application and the database. establish the connection between Java application and database. How we are going to establish the connection between Java application and database here? Connection on is equal to driver manager dot get connection of parameters here we have to provide. What parameters here we have to provide there? First parameter is like what there? JDBC colon MySQL colon /s localhost 3306 / Durga DB, comma, root database username and password. Again here we have to provide like what there? Root. Like this here we are able to use a set of instructions. Alright, sir. Now this is second one. Here we have to understand it clearly. Third one here. What about this third one here? Create either statement or prepared statement or callable statement. Right. Tell me here. I want to go with only statement. No, not required to go for other content here. Now here we need to prepare like what there? Statement st is equal to con dot create statement method. That's okay, fine. Next one is what? After this, fourth step is what there? Write and execute. Write and execute SQL queries. Alright, inside this write and execute SQL queries, what we have to use there? st dot, for example, into row count is equal to st dot execute update of. There we can write either create SQL query or insert SQL query or update SQL query or delete SQL query, anything. Here we can write that SQL queries. Understand my point here? Or else maybe if you want to fetch the data, there what we have to do there? Result set rs is equal to st dot execute update method, execute query method. Now inside this here we have to write what SQL query, select SQL query, select star from emp1. Last one. What about this last step here? Now tell me, close the resources, close the connection. Close the connection. If you want to close the connection here, what we have to do there? Simple con dot close method. Con dot what method here we have to use there? Close method. That's enough. So these are about like what there? Load and register the driver, class dot for name of all the content, and establish connection between Java application and database. Connection. Right, create either statement or prepare statement or callable statement. Statement st is equal to con dot create statement. Write and execute SQL queries. Int row count is equal to st dot execute update, and all the content here we have to provide. Result set rs is equal to s dot execute query. Finally, con dot close method. All these things here we provided clearly. Is that all of you are getting it or not? Okay, fine. Now the point is like what there? If you observe all the steps now, from one JDBC program to another JDBC program, which steps are repeated and which steps are variable? Which steps are same, as is the same steps we have to follow, and which steps are variable? In which step changes are required, in which steps common, same as is we are going to use. First of all, check this now. Load and register the driver. Any changes are required from application to application? No changes, same as it is. Establish connection, same as it is. Creating statement, same as it is. No changes are going to be happen. But write and execute SQL query is a variable. Understand my point or not? Is a variable. Is as per the requirement only. We are going to write what there? Write and execute SQL query. But close the connection is also like what there? Same as it is now. Out of 5 steps, 4 steps are same. Only 1 step is variable. The same 4 steps, whatever the 4 steps which you are repeating in every application, in general, that 4 steps are called as boilerplate code. That 4 steps are called as what there? Boilerplate code. That means duplicate code, repeatable code. In every application, all the 4 steps we are going to use, they are repeatable code. So this repeatable code is also be called as what there? Boilerplate code. Understand my point clearly? Okay. That point also I want to say no. In the above JDBC application steps, load and register driver, comma, establish connection between Java application and database, comma, create statement and close the resources, close the connection. Steps are repeatable steps in each and every JDBC application. Each and every JDBC application. Okay. So these steps are called boilerplate code. These steps are called as what? They're boilerplate code. Boilerplate code. It is not suggestible. It is not suggestible in the application development. This is the main problem with like what their JDBC. This is the main problem with what their JDBC. But the Spring Framework has to simplify this work or not? Spring Framework has to simplify this work or not? Exactly where Spring JDBC module is coming into the picture. Where Spring JDBC module is coming into the picture. In the above context, the Spring JDBC module is able to abstract, abstract the above boilerplate code in the form of XXX template classes inside the Spring Framework, that all the above boilerplate code is abstracted in the form of XXX template classes. Simple example, JDBC template class. Like this, 3 to 4 template classes are available in the form of XXX template classes, and it is able to allow, and it allows us to perform the required database operations directly by using XXX template class methods. That's it. Simple here what I'm telling to you. Example code here I'm telling to you. No need to use all these steps now. If I want to perform some operation, database operation, JDBC template dot execute update method, or else simply we are able to have what there update method. Then where we can write like what SQL queries no, like we can execute like what there insert comma, either we can execute insert, next one is what there update, next one is what there delete. This type of queries there we are able to execute. Either we can use update or execute, any method. Both the methods are available. If we use execute method, create a table, alter a table, these are also be executed. By using a update method, only like insert, update and delete operations here we are able to perform. Understand it clearly what I am telling to you. JDBC template dot update method here we provided. That's okay, fine. Apart from this, another example here I am telling to you. JDBC template dot query method is available. JDBC template dot what method is available here? Query method. What is the purpose of this query method? Directly we can execute select star from TMP1, finish. Automatically here we are able to get the data in the form of like what there some objects. Understand my point clearly. Now here I can provide something else like what the list. Directly list is equal to JDBC template dot query method, where we have to provide some mapper, a row mapper here we have to provide. That's enough. Automatically with the help of this total all records of data we are going to get in the form of a list objects. From this list we are able to get all the data clearly. See this in JDBC 5 steps here we have to follow. But if we use Spring JDBC module, If we use Spring JDBC module, what we provided here now, JDBC template.applet JDBC, just only these methods, only these two methods. Either these methods or this method. That's enough. Automatically we are able to perform all this. That means every time is not required to perform class.forname. Every time not required to provide connection con is equal to driver manage.get connection. Every time not required to provide statement st is equal to count.create statement. No, this kind of steps are not required. Wherever we want to perform database operation, directly we can write JDBC template dot execute method, JDBC template dot update, or JDBC template dot query. That's finished. Required operation here we are going to perform. Now tell me, is that Spring JDBC module simplifies the work or not? That simplifies the work or not? Moreover, I said to you that framework is a 70% implemented application. That means semi-implemented application. In JDBC program, 70% of the steps are like what there? All 5 steps now. But out of all the 5 steps now, repeatable steps are removed. Only what the step we require to perform database operations. Only that step here we are using or not? That means automatically it simplifies that enterprise application development or not? Right, sir. That is the intention of like what there? Spring framework. Spring JDBC module here we understood clearly. Right, sir. This is one point. Here we can understand. All right, sir. Then what modules are available? DAO. Then what next one here? JDBC module that we are having clearly. That's okay, fine. Apart from this DAO and this content here, similarly, we are having another module. What about this another module here? We can identify this no ORM module. ORM module. All right. What is this ORM module? All right. Again, the point is like what there? This module is able to provide an environment to perform an environment to integrate ORM tools related applications. Like what there? And ORM rules related applications like what there? Hibernate applications. Hibernate applications in the simplified manner. In what manner can you know? In a simplified manner. We can identify this clearly. Here also be some optimizations are going to be happen. Some simplifications are going to be happen. That we have to understand clearly. What simplifications are going to be happen? Can you know? If we observe these simplifications here. All right, sir. Almost the concept here, what I am telling here, if we use only plain JDBC, these many steps here we have to follow. But if we use Spring JDBC module, only one line. Similarly, if we prepare any Hibernate application, 2 minutes of time, I will show that point also now. If we prepare, or else if we want to perform database operations in a Hibernate applications, then we have to use the following steps. Right, what are the various steps here we are going to use? If we want to perform database operations in Hibernate applications, then we have to use the following steps. What steps here we are going to use there? First of all, observe carefully. Directly, now we have to use create configuration class object. Anyway, of course, we are not aware about it now, but in the future also, whenever we are revising the content, there we can identify the content. So for the sake of the document here, I am providing this content. All right, now here we have to provide configuration CNF. Configuration is equal to CFG is equal to new configuration object here we provided CFG dot configure method here we called. That's okay. This is point number 1. Create a configuration class object. Next one is what? After completion of this, number 2. Answer this. Number 2 here we have to prepare now. All right. Create session factory object. Create what there? Session factory object. And now here, session factory is equal to CFG dot build session factory. This configuration object is providing all the configuration details. Session factory object is able to maintain the connections, statements and all the things it is able to create in Hibernate applications. Number 3, after that, create a session object. Create what there? Session object. Observe carefully. If we want to create a session object, then what we have to do there? Session is equal to session factory dot create a session. Session factory dot what there? Create session. Automatically we are able to get session object. Whenever we are getting session object, then what next one here? Create transaction object. Separately here we have to create what the transaction object. What is the transaction object here? We are able to get now transaction tx is equal to session dot create or else begin transaction or get a transaction, whatever it may be. Begin transaction. Directly here we can call it. Now perform the database operations. Perform what operations here? Database operations. Insert this database operations here. What we are going to do there? Understand it clearly. Say for example, alright, now here we can use like what there? Session dot directly we can perform the methods like what there? Save method. Insert the CMP object save method or session dot save or update method. Then automatically here we are able to provide this session dot delete of EMP delete methods. Yes, sir. I'll forget my point or not. After this, like what there? Session dot get method by passing some parameter. Session dot load method. Alright, by using these methods here, we are able to perform all the sessions. Next one is like what there? Close session and a session factory. Close session and session factory. Now here, what we are able to provide there? Alright, session dot close. These are like what they are closing the connection in JDBC, you know. Session factory dot close. That's these are overall steps here what we are doing. Here also we am asking one question here, almost similar to JDBC only. No need to think too much about it. Out of all these steps now, configuration object, session factory object, session object. Next one is what there? Transaction object. Next to close the resources. These 5 steps are boilerplate code. Only the variable step is what there. Depending on our requirement, we are able to perform the executive database operation. Remaining steps are like what there? Repeatable steps only. So their code is what there? Boilerplate code. Their code is like what there? Boilerplate code. This is burden for the developers. Where exactly in this particular situation, Spring ORM module is coming into the picture. It is able to remove like what there all the boilerplate code directly tells us to perform the execute the respective operation. Directly tells us to perform like what there execute operation. Here also be some template classes are provided internally. There also be some template classes here we are able to get. Through these template classes here we are able to perform the the respective operations. Sir, all of you get my point or not? So this is a clear cut analysis here we can identify. Right, sir. The point is what? In the above Hibernate steps, except perform the database operations, except the database operations, all the remaining steps are repeatable steps. Repeatable steps in every Hibernate application. So this code is called this repeatable code. So this repeatable code is called is like what there? Boilerplate code. It is not suggestible. It is not suggestible in the application development. Okay. Right. Now this is the point here what I have given there. Now try to understand it clearly. Now the advantage in the above context. in the above context, now understand it clearly, in the above context, Spring ORM module is able to abstract the boilerplate code, and it allows us to perform the required database operations directly. That's it. It allows us the required database operations clearly. By using some predefined library, we are able to provide this. Got it or not? Some hibernated template class is available. Through this hibernate template, we are able to perform all the database operations. Anyway, not required to write that code and everything here at present, no. But in the future, we are going to understand these points clearly. Got it or not? See, observe carefully in every aspect that the Spring framework is abstracted that hard-coded kind of content and simplifies the environment and providing that simplified environment for us to perform the database operations. That's why Spring framework is getting somewhat demand in outside. Understand my point, Kerno? So this Hibernate is a base content. JDBC is a base content where a lot of steps here we have to write to perform a simple database operation. But Spring framework has abstracted that entire environment in the form of some class there. In that class, some methods are available. That methods, if you use now, directly we can simplify the total environment in a simplified way. We are able to perform the database operation. In JDBC, 5 steps you have to write. But in Spring JDBC, within 1 step we can prepare our application. In a Hibernate, 6 steps here we have to write. But in Spring ORM module, within 1 step here we have to provide. But along with that, some configurations we have to provide there. In the form of some XML or in the form of like what there, some annotations we have to write some configuration details now. That's okay. Then overall environment is simplified. That is the main intention of like what there, Spring framework here we can understand. That's it. Good. So these two concepts are okay, fine. A few more modules information I need to discuss with you. And tomorrow we are going to discuss about the remaining modules information there. Tomorrow we are going to complete it. If time is possible, and day after tomorrow, I'll start directly. And tomorrow itself, I will start directly. Steps to prepare first Spring application. What exactly the steps we require to prepare the application related content that we are going to start on tomorrow. Okay, that's it. Then within few minutes, I'll start Advanced Java. Those are attending there, stay here. I'll come back within few minutes of time regarding this Advanced Java. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Tomorrow, see the remaining part.